You're watching a special headlines today broadcast. A new team Manmohan is in place, but will they be able to deliver over the next 1 hour? We'll have several of the newly promoted ministers joining us. Kamal Nath, Minister for Urban Development, now also additional charge of Parliamentary Affairs. The new Law Minister Ashwini Kumar, Shashi Tharoor, Minister of State for Human Resource Development, Ajay Markan, Cabinet Minister for Housing and Poverty Alleviation. We'll have a political panel in our studios as well to discuss the big takeaways. But first, let's get you the biggest winners and gainers from the biggest reshuffle implemented by the Prime Minister. So what's the big message the Prime Minister is trying to send through this massive reshuffle? The first, of course, is that this reshuffle bears the firm imprint of Rahul Gandhi. He might not have entered the government, but each of the decisions has his signature. It also has several of the members of Team Rahul, whether it is a Sachin Pilot or a Jyotiraditya Scindia, getting crucial portfolios like power, corporate affairs, ministers who are pro-economic reforms being brought in, and the message the government is sending out is that the economic reform process which we've begun will continue. People who are acting as obstacles being moved on and being replaced by people who are young, who are fresh, who are full of ideas and want to make economic reforms happen. Then there is Salman Khurshid's elevation, which is being seen as a big snub to Arvind Kejriwal's shrill campaign. He had allegations leveled against his trust for misdemeanor, for fiddle in his trust, the Zakir Hussain trust, but instead of sidelining him, he's actually been rewarded and promoted to the crucial position of External Affairs Ministry. The government clearly saying that allegations being leveled from the street cannot dictate the government's agenda. That's why Salman Khurshid has been promoted. Then Shashi Tharoor has been rehabilitated after an exile of about 2.5 years. The government feels maybe he was punished unfairly and very harshly. There were no corruption charges against him. At best, it was a case of misdemeanor. He's now been brought back and his talent will be used by the government. Then there is Kamal Nath, who's been on the fringes of mainstream governance for quite a while. He's now been given the crucial portfolio of parliamentary affairs, and his big challenge, of course, will be to ensure that Parliament functions. We saw what happened in the monsoon session. Kamal Nath, the man the Prime Minister is trusting, will ensure things don't go wrong in the winter session. Then there is a prominence given to the states of West Bengal and Andhra Pradesh, keeping the 2014 elections in mind. People who've been countering Mamata Banerjee on the ground in West Bengal being brought in as ministers of state in Andhra Pradesh, where the government did really well last time but is now on a downward spiral, and to counter Jagan Reddy, leaders like Chiranjeevi being brought into the union cabinet. So who are the biggest gainers of this reshuffle? We count down starting from 6. Ajay Markan has been promoted to cabinet rank. He did really well as a Minister of State. He's now become the Minister for Housing and Poverty, Urban Poverty Alleviation. He's a full-fledged cabinet minister now, being brought in to counter Sheila Dikshit's power base and project another face for the state of Delhi. Then there is Pallam Raju, who was earlier the Minister of State for Defence. He's now been entrusted with Kapil Sibbal's former ministry, the Human Resource Development Ministry. Massive potential to do good work over here. Young face getting rewarded. Then one of the biggest gainers to my mind is Ashwini Kumar, who's now got Salman Khurshid's former Ministry of Law. This is a massive jump in his profile. He's been articulate, he's been voicing the Prime Minister's vision, and now he's got a very, very significant portfolio. Let's now come to Veerappa Moily, who's been brought into the Petroleum Ministry, where there were charges against Jaipal Reddy of slowing down the decision-making process. This is a political hot potato, mind you, and Veerappa Moily has been brought in to speed up decision-making. A big rehabilitation of sorts for him, because since the time he lost law, he was, in some senses, for his seniority, on the sidelines. He's now been given a plump portfolio. Pawan Bansal, one of the biggest winners of the day, he's landed the Ministry for Railways, which has been with one of the allies for many years now. Finally, Congress bringing in Pawan Bansal, Mr. Chidambaram too having a role to play in Pawan Bansal's appointment. His challenge, of course, now to implement railway reforms and make it happen really quickly, because no railway reforms have been seen over the last several years, where we've only seen populist decisions being announced. The biggest gainer, of course, is the man on your screen, Mr. Salman Khurshid, a Muslim, suave, urbane face being projected as India's outreach to the world. He had some charges against him. He almost got tripped over. He in fact felt that he'd been done in by charges leveled in Operation Dhritarashtra, but the government countering that, giving him the Ministry of External Affairs. He is by far today's biggest gainer, especially given what happened over the last few months. Let's now quickly come to the losers. We start with Shrikant Jena, Minister of Parliament from Odisha. He was hoping very hard to get a cabinet rank. He's been ignored. Then there's also Gurudas Kamath, who refused the portfolio he was offered the last time, this time not getting a look in, probably because of indiscipline, and the Mumbai quota remains vacant. There's Vilas Mutambar, who comes from Nagpur. Given the fact that Nitin Gadkari has been wanting to fight from Nagpur in the next elections, it was hoped that he would get a leg up. That hasn't happened either. Renuka Chaudhary was hoping to get a look back into the cabinet. That hasn't happened either. A big disappointment for her. At number 2 is Anand Sharma, who for quite some time thought he was the front runner for the External Affairs Ministry post. There was a strong buzz about that, but that had happened. He's got a lot to consider about why he lost out. The biggest loser, though, in my mind, is Jaipal Reddy, who's been moved out of the crucial petroleum ministry. He withstood corporate pressure. He took on some of the biggest companies in the country, said he was doing his job honestly. It happened earlier with Manishankar Iyer and now Jaipal Reddy too, probably turning out to be politically inconvenient and therefore being shunted out to the relatively insignificant portfolio of science and technology. So that, at a very quick glance, is a list of the biggest losers and gainers from today's cabinet reshuffle. Let's now break down the Prime Minister's new cabinet. I'm joined by Veer Sanghvi, Deeptosh Majumdar and Nalin Kohli, but I first want to go across to the new Parliamentary Affairs Minister, Mr. Kamal Nath. He's joining us on this broadcast. You know, yours is now a very unenviable position because you've got this big assignment at a time when the winter session is threatening, we're facing another washout. We saw what happened during the monsoon session. You've been entrusted with the task, Mr. Kamal Nath, of making Parliament function. What's your plan? How do you intend to do it? Do you think you can do it?
Well, Parliament lies at the heart of democracy, and I believe that at the heart of Parliament lies attempting to build consensus. We must try and build consensus. That will be my endeavor, to build consensus. You can never have unanimity. All parties have their views, have their ideologies, but at least there should be a very strong attempt at building a consensus, and that will be my endeavor. And with the 32 years I've spent in Parliament, I have seen a lot. I have seen consensus building at its best. So that will be my endeavor.
Veer Sanghvi, one thing is for Kamal Nath to say he wants to build consensus, but given the sort of mood the opposition is in, this is going to be a very difficult task.
Well, I think so. I think he realizes that. I mean, obviously he's going to hope for the best. But the problem with being a Parliamentary Affairs Minister is that essentially you have to be a mixture of PR man and bouncer. You can speak softly, but you must wield the big stick. In the past, they've always had Pranab Mukherjee to wield the big stick for them, who start shouting and gesticulating the moment the opposition misbehaves. This time, Kamal's got that job.
Because Mamata Banerjee is threatening to move a no-confidence motion, sir. The Samajwadi Party, the BSP, the DMK, all of them are not with the Congress on the issue of FDI in retail. If there were to be voting, you could see the government trip. Do you have a plan to be able to counter that?
Well, I think we've got to make efforts to see all these parties comprehend that a policy, especially an economic policy, is not a party's policy, it's for the nation. And in the end, the question is, what is good for the country? Is it good for the nation? And while some may have an ideology that we do not want it, so obviously our effort, and my effort, will be to make them see that why FDI in the end is good. It's not a question of FDI. It's big versus small. And if it's not FDI in big, well, it'll be local investment. There'll be indigenous investment in big. The country has to move towards that, towards organized retail. And this is the point to, to really understand that it's not FDI. It is big versus small.
Okay, Deeptosh has a question for you.
Mr. Nath, this is Deeptosh. The BJP had sounded positive earlier on the pension bill, on the pension reforms front. Would you like to approach the BJP both on pension and to some extent on insurance?
Of course we will. Well, one of the bills has gone through the standing committee, and there are some reservations on that. It will be our effort and my effort to make them understand that why we need this. At the end of the day, it's again not a pension bill for the Congress party. It is a pension bill which is for the country. And if they've got some serious reservations, we'll try and see how we can get around that. We will explain to them. And I'm confident that the BJP is a responsible party. All political parties, at the end of the day, are rooted to the ground. And if they've got numbers, they're rooted to the ground. And if they're rooted to the ground, certainly they are responsible parties.
Arvind
So I want
Kejriwal
to start
says
on that premise.
that the corrupt are being rewarded, the tainted are being promoted. How do you respond to charges that are being leveled by the BJP and by Arvind Kejriwal when he says people like Salman Khurshid, etc., who've got charges against them, like Shashi Tharoor, for example, are actually being rewarded by this government? That's the question Arvind Kejriwal is posing.
Well, I don't think Shashi Tharoor's charges are anymore there. This was something which was leveled. And I believe that this politics of charging, this politics of acquisition is a new phenomenon. You just cannot have politics of acquisition. Somebody accuses somebody. And that's the end of the day. That's people who devoted years to public life and who spent years in public life then are answering to others certain things which may be totally unfounded.
Bir Sanghvi has a question for you, sir.
Well, let me give you another perspective. One perspective is that in the early days of this government and the last government, the moment there was a charge against Natwar Singh, you immediately got rid of him. Charge against Shashi Tharoor, not even a very serious charge, he was forced to resign. Adarsh, you've tried being nice guys. Everybody's always stepped down. Is this now a conscious decision on the part of the government to say, no more Mr. Nice Guy, make all the charges you want, we don't really care?
No, it's not. But Veer, as you know, that in the end, towards the end of UPA 1 and the start of UPA 2, we did not have this atmosphere of acquisition. You did not have this atmosphere of charges flying around every day. Is the atmosphere in 2008 or 2009 the same what it is today? It's certainly not. And I don't think any government, whichever government it is, whichever party it is, should now start responding to every single charge which is made. There's a due process of law. So we say, let's forget the due process of law. Let's forget all that. We have publicly made a charge, now you should publicly step aside, or you should publicly respond to it. There is no end to this.
You said, Kamal, every party should say no to the politics of charges. In the view and in the light of what's been said about Nitin Gadkari, the obvious question is going to be asked, are you and the BJP, the political establishment, the mainstream political establishment, now going to make common cause and say that the media, India against corruption, can rail away, we'll just do what we think is right?
No, certainly not. Every party has to look at itself. There's no question of tying up with any party or having an arrangement with any party that this is our position. Every party has to decide for itself that what decision is going to take in a particular case. So there's no question of us having any tie-up with any party on this.
Okay, also given the challenges that you now face vis-a-vis numbers, how will the government make its legislative agenda go ahead? You know, whether it is pension, whether it is insurance, all these bills require you to push that number of 272. We've got Nalin Kohli here. Will you help Kamal Nath, please? Because without the BJP's help, he's got a tough task ahead. He might have been given that portfolio, but he needs the BJP's help to make Parliament function. Will the BJP do what it did in the monsoon session?
See, I think, Rahul, what we need to point out is, and Mr. Kamal Nath mentioned the same thing, it's about consensus building. The onus falls on the government. And if you would really hear what Mr. Arun Jaitley, leader of opposition in the Rajya Sabha, and Ms. Swaraj have been saying, also our party leadership, that at the end of the day, you know, as an opposition party, there have been places where we have helped the government also. Some bills have passed, but we can certainly have reservations. If the government engages, there's a parliamentary process, and consensus building takes that, involves all of it. The second point to that is that the government can't take for granted the opposition's complete, if we may say, support for its decisions. If I pick up the issue of FDI that Mr. Nath just mentioned about, on that our party has consistently pointed out on the floor of the House, the then leader of the House, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, had given an assurance that all the stakeholders, which means the state governments, whether it will be Parliament, will be taken into confidence when this decision would be implemented,
Kamal,
which hasn't happened.
So the BJP just started speaking and they're already mounting troubles for you. This is going to be a tough task indeed.
Well, it is tough, but I believe it's addressable. And I think that there was consensus when the NDA was in government. I remember being in parliament and there were issues, legislation which the BJP was bringing in, which we supported. And in UPA-1, there were issues. I myself brought in the amendments to the Patents Act. I came in with other issues and the BJP supported. We engaged with them. And that's what I propose doing, that we'll engage with BJP, we'll engage with all parties. And I have no doubt that as responsible parties, they are going to respond so
Nalin
that
wants to
the
respond to
government
what you're
moves
saying.
on in the country.
No, I think that what Mr. Nath is saying as the minister is the approach, and as an opposition party, I think the BJP is not anti-reform. We certainly have very strong reservations on FDI and multi-brand retail, and we've been highlighting that. And the second part to that is that certainly at the larger, when there are issues that require national decision making, then the parliamentary part of our party and the top leadership engages.
Okay.
And Mr. Nath, as the parliamentary affairs minister, obviously has the onus.
Mr. Kamal Nath, before I let you go and we welcome our next guest, are you looking at what's happened today as a political rehabilitation of sorts? Given your seniority, you really haven't had a very meaty, meaningful portfolio. You've been on the sidelines. Now with the parliamentary affairs portfolio being given to you, the government at some level recognizes that with Pranab Mukherjee's absence, if it has to get the task done, it can't be done through a Pawan Bansal or a Sushil Kumar Shinde. They need the experience of a Kamal Nath. So are you looking at this at some level as a rehabilitation?
Well, I don't think I needed rehabilitation. I was very happy and I was not looking for this. I wasn't looking for anything. I've been far too long in government and I had a very strenuous time as Commercial Industries Minister, and thereafter even in road transport it was there.
Okay.
My existing job, which I continue to have, is very good.
I'm going to leave it over there. Thank you very much, Mr. Kamal Nath, for joining us with your thoughts. We wish you all the best. You've got a tough task ahead. You're sitting on the hot seat now. It'll be a challenge to see whether you can use all that political acumen to make Parliament function. All the linkages you've built up over the last 3 decades will come handy. Thank you very much, Mr. Kamal Nath, for joining us, our first newsmaker, one of the big promotees in today's cabinet reshuffle. I now want to go across to the country's new law minister, Mr. Ashwini Kumar, is joining us on this broadcast. And that's a big shoe you filled, stepping in for Salman Khurshid. Dr. Ashwini Kumar, how do you assess your challenges? Your critics have been saying that he's got this great equation with the Prime Minister, as a consequence of which he keeps getting promoted. What's the secret behind being one of the most successful cabinet ministers, given now that you've entered the big league, Dr. Kumar?
Well, I'm not going to comment on my equations. My party leaders know where I belong. They know what tasks they need to entrust to me. I've been a loyal soldier of the party all these years, and I've tried to perform to the best of my ability whatever task has been entrusted to me. I do believe that there are challenges galore as far as the Ministry of Law and Justice is concerned. We need to have a whole new comprehensive legal architecture to facilitate, promote and consolidate the economic reform process. We need legal architecture to promote good governance and transparency in this country. We need to address issues relating to judicial reforms, affordable justice, filling up of vacancies in various courts and tribunals, and bilateral investment treaties and their implementation having a direct bearing on economic growth. And of course, the fact remains that at the core of India's democracy is an overarching and non-negotiable commitment to the rule of law, which is a part of the basic structure of the Constitution. And my foremost priority would be to ensure that everyone abides by constitutional discipline and the limitations in the Constitution on different organs of the government are preserved. We will do our best to promote that constitution.
What, according to you, Ashwini Kumar, is the big message the Prime Minister is sending out through this cabinet reshuffle? Some new faces have been brought in. It isn't a mass culling operation that some were expecting. Some people have been sent back to the party, whether it's an SM Krishna, whether it is an Ambika Soni, but it didn't happen on the lines of what happened with the Kamraj plan. What, to your mind, sir, is the big message Dr. Manmohan Singh is sending out to the people of India?
Please understand, Rahul, that our leader, Srimati Sonia Gandhi, and our distinguished Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh are very, very thoughtful persons. They just do not take decisions without giving it their very serious reflection and thoughts. And I think this new reshuffle also bears in a very significant way the stamp of Mr. Rahul Gandhi. I think all the three have had serious reflections on what needs to be done both in the party and in the government.
Will that lead to complications? This is the first time we've seen every minister coming out, sir, and actually thanking Rahul Gandhi for helping him get the position that he did. You've done the same as well. But now that there'll be three people on the same wheel, you know, you've got Sonia Gandhi doing backseat driving, you've got the Prime Minister who's on the wheel but doesn't wield political authority, and then there's also the young man who's going to come center stage. Will these, are there just too many cooks fiddling with the same broth?
Oh, well, Mr. Rahul Gandhi's job is cut and dried for him. He has to lead sooner or later the party into the future. We all know he is the leader of the party. He is equipped to be a leader of the party. And it is only in the fitness of things that in preparation for the 2014 poll, he has had his inputs and his thoughts shared between the two leaders. And I'm sure that what has finally come out of this reshuffle, both within the party and in the government, will have its dividends in the not very distant future. I have no doubt in my mind that this team will hopefully project our priorities in 2014 and thereafter. I have no doubt that this is an extremely useful exercise for enabling the Congress and the UPA again to win the 2014 election.
Deeptosh has a question for you.
Mr. Kumar, this is Deeptosh. Do you think that the process of transition which is happening, a change of guard, so to say, at the top in Congress, which is happening at this point of time, this has been reflected enough in this cabinet reshuffle?
I think so. I think given the range of choice and the possibilities, there has certainly been a conscious effort to groom younger leaders in positions of responsibility, thereby carrying forward the process of transition.
How are the seniors taking to Rahul Gandhi?
Well, I'm sure they are acknowledging the fact that a young nation has to provide younger political leadership and that the party has to move on to the next phase, and nobody can seriously dispute that the law of life is that the old order change it, yielding place to the new, a la Shakespeare.
But it isn't quite that simple, I mean, for example, Ghulam Nabi Azad was asked to go back to the party and he wasn't very comfortable because the old guard realizes that working with a boss who's 3 decades, 4 decades younger than them is not an easy task, which is why, you know, at some level Manish Tiwari instituted this Vikram Pandit type coup where he sent Ambika Soni back. But these are people who will find it difficult to work with a man with a completely different horizon and a perspective.
I'm not so sure, Rahul. The Congress is a tradition of working with younger leaders. When Rajiv Gandhi became Prime Minister and therefore Congress President, he was about 2 decades younger than most of the other leaders. They all followed the party line. Judging by what Ashwini said, they're going to do the same this time around too.
So you see no problems at all?
I don't see any problem. I mean, there was a problem with Kamalapati Tripathi in Rajiv Gandhi's time, who was appointed, if you remember, famously working president, and Rajiv Gandhi said at a press conference, what's the point having a working president who does no work? But that, I think, was an exception. By and large, I don't think the problem has ever been generational in the Congress.
One of the other things that's being said, Ashwini Kumar, about this government is that because of all the allegations that have been leveled, Colgate, 2G, a lot of the old blood had lost the will to govern. They were just so fatigued being, you know, hammered day in, day out by all these charges. Do you think the transfusion of new energy, new blood will actually see bold, aggressive decision making at a time when your government is technically reduced to a minority and it's very difficult for you to be able to implement any legislative agenda?
But I don't agree that we have been reduced to a minority. That is still to be tested. Our economic and social transformation agenda is on track. I agree with you that youthful and energetic leaders do infuse new energy and dynamism. Fresh perspectives do lend to freshness in political decision making. And I think the wisdom of the old guard and the energy of the young is a right blend for India in the 21st century. Congress Party and the UPA government have tried to ensure a right mix of experience and energy.
Well, Dr. Ashwini Kumar, you've done really well for yourself. to get the law ministry is a massive promotion. Heartiest congratulations to you for that. We look forward to seeing how you're able to deliver. Thank you very much for joining us, Ashwini Kumar. When he jumped into politics, he was considered the hottest young talent around, but he had been branded a novice by the time he was shown the doors from the corridors of power. Shashi Tharoor, after a 2.5-year political exile, is making a comeback. He's come as Minister of State in the HRD department. He'll work with Pallam Raju. Let's listen to what Shashi Tharoor is saying. Joining us now, Dr. Tharoor, welcome to Headlines Today and congratulations. Several people thought that you'd been sent like Ram into this long vanvas and there was no coming back from there. But you've got a second opportunity. What do you intend to do now to ensure that you stay out of trouble, Dr. Tharoor?
I think it depends very much on your cooperation, Rahul. I think ultimately controversies are made, not born. I think to a great extent, many of the so-called controversies into which I was dragged during my first stint in office had a lot to do with the media choosing to make controversies out of remarks which clearly were innocent and were intended to be innocent. But let's let all that pass. I'm not interested in dredging up the past. I think that what has happened has happened. I hope that we will both approach our responsibilities, my own responsibilities as a public official, and yours as the media, in the same constructive spirit that
your critics would say, Dr. Tharoor, that when you got the opportunity to be Minister of State for External Affairs, that you were too raw in the Indian system. That there were people within the External Affairs Ministry who didn't like the fact that a former UN diplomat was coming in and showing them what could possibly be done. What are the sort of things that you've picked up by being in the system for 2.5 years? What did you do earlier which you do not intend to do now?
I frankly don't know. I think I'm going to have to ask all of you to advise me on that. From my point of view, I've always acted with honesty, with openness, with transparency and commitment. And I intend to bring those same qualities to bear in my new ministry. The main difference, I suppose, is that instead of being just a few weeks old in politics, as I was when I became a minister, I am now a roughly seasoned 3.5 years old in politics. I know people, I know the situation, I know the country in many ways far more intimately, far better than as somebody who had cared about India, written about India, but seen it mainly from the inside, from the outside. That's the only difference. Otherwise, I hope I'm still the same person and that I'm going to approach my tasks in exactly the same spirit.
Would you have thought that external affairs would have been a natural choice for you? What do you make of your portfolio, the human resource development portfolio, at a time when it's being given to somebody who hasn't been in that portfolio, either Pallam Raju, and many would argue intellectually in terms of exposure, that you way ahead of him. So having him as a boss at a time when from most parameters you should probably be his boss, how tough would it be then for you to work with him?
Pallam is a very good friend. We've known each other throughout my stint here, and I count him as a friend, and I think the feeling is mutual. And the other MOS in the ministry, Jitin Prasad, is also a friend, so I expect that we will forge a very good team together. Pallam is somebody who's done outstandingly well in his previous assignment as MOS for Defence. And I have tremendous confidence in his political experience as well as judgment to lead the ministry. And I'm looking forward to being of service to him, to the ministry and to the government.
Do you have any plans yet? You've written a lot about India's potential, the importance of education. Do you have any plans yet of what you intend to do to ensure that the sort of demographic dividend that we have actually yields in faster growth?
Well, this is it. This is an issue that I have thought about and written about a little bit. Very much the macro view. I think that it'll be a more informed view once I'm in the ministry and I've had briefings from the officials and read the files and understood our policies from the inside. But from the outside, my big concern at the big picture level is that if we don't get the education and training part of our responsibilities right, that the whole demographic dividend of having 540 million young people under the age of 25 who could be the dynamic, youthful workforce of the world in the future for the next 30 years, while the rest of the world, including China, is aging. Instead of doing that, if we get it wrong, we could end up with a calamity on our hands with more and more unemployed, frustrated young men picking up weapons the way in which the Maoists have been doing. So to my mind, this ministry's responsibility is huge. It's extremely important because getting these aspects right is what will give us a chance to ensure, very frankly, that we can prevent things going very badly wrong for our country in the future.
Dr. Tharoor, Arvind Kejriwal is very unhappy with this cabinet reshuffle. He says those who were tainted, and he cited what happened with the IPL Kochi franchise, in your case, have now been rehabilitated. He says the Prime Minister, is rewarding those who were left out. How do you respond to Arvind Kejriwal and this charge? It's being leveled against you also, Mr. Khurshid, that in a way, they're trying to show that even if there are people who were sent out, they'll brazen it out and bring them back. That's what Kejriwal is alleging, sir.
Well, I haven't had the benefit of meeting Mr. Kejriwal or finding out what's on his mind. But as I said, this is, as far as I'm concerned, history. I'd like to know what exactly the taint consists of. I am very proudly able to say that I at no stage misused my office, and at no stage was there any pecuniary gain. I feel it was entirely within my rights to have encouraged the steering of a cricket team towards my home state, and I'm quite happy to stand behind that. As for the mythical 70 crores the media made so much of a song and dance about, my wife and I haven't seen 70 paise of it. So the entire thing, frankly, was a figment of popular imagination. I have absolutely no difficulty with corruption being exposed, any misuse of office, any misuse or appropriation of taxpayer money. All of these should be exposed and criticized. None of those has happened in the incident to which you allude, and so I don't know what the taint is other than a sort of mass hysteria in the media that some people took advantage of. As far as I'm concerned, I'm here right now. If there is any wrongdoing with which I can be charged or should be charged, by all means charge me. As you know, I have not been charged because there is nothing. So can we please move on from what is essentially a dead and buried issue and focus on the future? That's where I'm at, and I'm looking forward to doing the right thing there.
Do you think the government still has enough time left, given the charges of Colgate, 2G? This is a government besieged by very serious allegations of corruption. Is there enough time for the new team, Manmohan, to actually make a dent? Because some are arguing and saying these are good steps, but it's too little and too late.
Well, look, the fact is that the life of this parliament has only gotten a year and a half to run. So in terms of the maximum time available to this government to make a difference, it is a year and a half. But I think the cabinet reshuffle is a signal of the government's earnest desire and determination to make a real difference, to actually take matters in its hands and show the world and show the nation that there's a lot that can be done for the public. If that then succeeds in giving the government more time in a further round, wonderful. But right now our horizon is 1.5 years, and we're going to be working at express speed to fulfill that.
Well, you want to leave the past behind, begin on a new slate. Everyone's earnestly hoping that all the immense talent you have, you can bring it to play and stay out of trouble. Dr. Shashi Tharoor, for joining us with your thoughts. Thank you very much, and heartiest congratulations. We look forward to seeing what you're able to deliver. Thank you very much, Shashi Tharoor.
Thank you, Rahul.
Well, he's promising to stay out of trouble, but can he? His controversy is childhood. Do you think he'll trip over once more, or has he learned his lesson?
Yeah, well, there's two sets of controversies. One is the whole IPL thing, and there I have to say I agree with him. He was hounded out of office, and the so-called impropriety he was accused of is nothing compared to what we've seen. So yes, he was, I think, treated unjustly. But the controversies predated that, and they'll happen again, not because of anything Shashi does, but because of the way he is, the way he looks. He's good looking, he's suave, he talks like Prince Charles. He's just too good a target for the media. Give it a couple of weeks of honeymoon and then the media will go for him again.
Deeptosh, Bir Sanghvi says the media will go for him again?
His tweets have matured, they stay out of controversy. He's no longer a tourist in Thiruvananthapuram, he's grown his roots there. But what remains that about Shashi Tharoor, the unpredictable nature, that you never know when he will bring that cattle class kind of an idiom back into his language.
But he's learned that humor doesn't go down well, neither with the media nor with the politicians.
Yeah, but the media will find something. He makes for good television, he makes for good ratings. Somebody will go for him.
Nalin, will you let Shashi Tharoor do his job in peace, or will the BJP too try find ways of pouncing on him?
I think I need to make this clear. We are not against any individual. If we raise issues, it will be
you
our
have a
issues.
problem with his reinduction?
No, certainly. Let's say, first of all, let me get very clear about this and say, when it's a political exercise, and in this case, as every cabinet reshuffle is, it's the prerogative of the Prime Minister and the Congress party to pick whoever they want. For us as a principal opposition party, the issues remain static throughout. And I think the two glaring and the most important issues confronting the nation, A, price rise, and B, all the big scams. So I mean, what is the talent deficit or talent surplus or the talent available? To meet this, the common people, and as a principal opposition party, we are going to keep track of that.
He's got some talent, hopefully he won't trip over. I now want to go across to another Mantriji who's got a big promotion. I want to go across to Ajay Markan, the new Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation Minister. He's joining us on this broadcast. Welcome, Mr. Markan. You were a very high-profile sports minister. You did really well for yourself. Now there's this mouthful of a ministry you've got, Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation. Is this a promotion, or are you really being shunted out, given a portfolio which is higher in rank but not necessarily means very much?
Well, I think first of all, I would like to clear that this is a very important ministry, and in the 12th plan itself, the total outlay is 79,600 crore rupees. So any ministry, any department with a total outlay of 79,600 crore, and that too looking after the urban poor, and India now becoming more and more urbanized, with 30% of our country in urban areas. By 2020, more than 50% of India would be urbanized, and coming from Delhi, having done politics all through in Delhi, is something which I should consider, and I do consider, a big opportunity.
So is this then laying the grounds for Ajay Markan to step in place of Sheila Dikshit? And you've got housing and urban poverty alleviation, fits in really well with what Delhi requires, and therefore after the next assembly elections or before that, will we see Ajay Markan as the government's face in Delhi?
Well, why only Delhi? I am talking about the entire country, entire urban areas in the country. We've got more than 7,000 urban agglomerations in the country. I am talking about the entire country, and there is so much to do as far as urban housing is concerned, as far as employment in urban areas for the urban poor is concerned. There is so much to do, and give me some time and you'll yourself realize that a huge opportunity lies in terms of housing and urban poverty alleviation. A lot of work can be done in this ministry, and as I said, the money which is there with us, the Planning Commission itself in the 12th plan outlay has provided so much of money in this ministry, and I think we'll be able to make a mark.
Well, that's the one thing that has to be said about Mr. Markan, that when he got, for example, the sports ministry, it wasn't a very high-profile ministry, and because of the initiatives he took, the things he did, he sort of raised the profile, and not too many have heard of housing and urban poverty alleviation. Do you think he can do the same here?
So I think that's why he's been given the ministry. I think poverty alleviation housing is a ministry very close to Sonia Gandhi's heart. And she wanted, I imagine, somebody like Mr. Markan, who's very honest, is sincere, will go ahead and do what needs to be done, and will make the ministry high profile. We're talking to a future Chief Minister of Delhi, and this, I think, is the first stage before he gets
That's very interesting. Veer Sanghvi is saying, talking to a future Chief Minister of Delhi. You got a big smile, and you've earned it, because he's done good work, Deeptosh. If you actually see the work he's done as the sports ministry, he's actually been the most active sports minister, encouraging sports, and that's some tribute to the man.
Definitely. I basically think that this will be a stepping stone for a future Delhi Chief Ministership, no doubt. But I would like to ask him that will he carry on his fight with the finance minister? Because this is one ministry which the budget gets almost halved every year at the end of November. So will he fight with the finance minister?
He's learned a lot from Chidambaram. He credits him with a lot in his career. Will you fight? Asks Deeptosh.
I don't think, Deeptosh, that I would need to fight. One of the reasons why the budget is slashed is because they are unable to spend the money. So when I am there at the helm of affairs of the ministry, at least one thing I would ensure, that the full amount of money would be spent. And that is the biggest challenge. And we would spend the money, ask for more. And already in the 12th plan, as I said, is an overall increase of 76% over the 11th plan. So, and if by November I am unable to spend, then of course they have a right to slash. But if I am able to spend, ask more, then no one would cut. And I know Mr. Chidambaram well. If I perform well, if I spend the money well, I don't think he will slash.
Do you think it's been left a little too late? All this young blood coming in after the last 3.5 years of so much negativity, governance being impacted because of the scams. Is there enough time for the new team to actually make a mark and reverse the decline, Mr. Markan?
Well, I think the best thing which has happened now is that in key portfolios, younger ministers have been given an important responsibility. Like power, Jyotiraditya Scindia is an extremely efficient minister. And in key ministries, I consider housing and poverty alleviation also to be a key ministry, where we can make a mark. So in all such ministries, if we are able to perform, then time, I don't think 1.5 years is a good time to show the results and tell people, look, we have done this much, give us another opportunity.
Okay, you think it's enough time? Let me get a sense of our panel. I'll start with Veer Sanghvi. Can the new team deliver results in the time that they have?
It depends on what you define by results. If you're
Reverse
saying,
the decline.
yes, that there is a possibility. But if you're saying that this is a government with an agenda that's unfulfilled, and now new ministers have been appointed to fulfill that agenda, that's not what happened today. This is a government that is looking at the next election. This is a cabinet that's been designed with an election in mind. This is an election cabinet, not an administrative cabinet.
I agree with Veer completely, but it is being led by a Prime Minister who's probably not coming back in 2014. Who knows very well that even if the Congress wins, he's going to hand over the reins to Rahul Gandhi, and he's looking tired. It depends. The Prime Minister is not getting younger. His cabinet may have just got younger. So it depends entirely on the energy of the Prime Minister to push through what he wants to have.
No, but then there is a clash there, Mr. Markan. On the one side, you've got the Prime Minister who at the end of his tenure is now very clearly going to more and more be concerned about his legacy. Then there are young ministers and MPs such as yourself and others who are worried about the 2014 election and what might happen there. And therefore the priorities are different between the fight for legacy and the fight for survival. Do you see a clash there?
No, I don't think so. There's a clash. It is something which can go hand in hand, side by side, because the fight for legacy is something, if we perform, he will have something to be proud of. After all, we are all his team members. So I don't think there is a clash. Rather, both these things go side by side, and I think he'll be the happiest and most satisfied person, Prime Minister, at the end of the day, if suppose his team performs, which we are going to.
Nalin wants to make a quick point.
I just wanted to make a point in terms of, the performance and agenda. I think when the government came in 2009, there was a big talk about India growing and all that. And I think if we now look at totality, we seem to be in a situation of low growth. We seem to be in a situation all consistently in very high inflation. And the question is that who's prevented the government from performing? Now, if they are going to talk about reversing it in 14 months, it begs the question, then why have we reached this situation too?
You've laid it really well. And I want quick final comments from Deeptosh first, because could this have been done earlier? Giving younger ministers a leg up, giving them more meaningful portfolios. Is it too late? Can they now make a difference?
This could have been done easily 6 months earlier. In fact, it should have been done then. These scams wouldn't have, probably a younger team would have faced them better had they happened when they were already in power already in the saddle for say about 3-4 months. It could have easily been done around June, but they kept postponing it because they were caught in two minds. Well, should Rahul come to the government? Should Rahul remain in the party? What would be his larger role? And I think the UP election shook them very violently, and as a result, they kept UP election results shook them so much that they really kept postponing what they should have done.
So far, most of the young ministers of the state have been sitting in the pavilion, ruining the poor performance of batsmen who are out on the pitch, saying, these guys can't bat properly, and making it seem as if they had nothing to do with this government. Now, of course, they have to go out and face the chin music. Will the younger guard be able to deliver results different from what the old guard?
Well, it's very difficult. We take the example of power, which is one of the examples Mr. Markan gave. Jyotirudya Sindhu is one of the most competent ministers in this government. What is he going to do in a year and a half? He's not going to be able to achieve so much. We'll have a much better power ministry than we had under Sushil Shinde, certainly. But that isn't enough to achieve things. But taking up from Deeptosh's point, this should have been done at least a year ago. They've already left it too late. The government has lost momentum. You asked about the Prime Minister and his legacy. What is his legacy? What is the legacy of the UPA's first term? The nuclear deal from which the country's got nothing. What is going to be the legacy of second term? A fight over FDI in retail? I mean, are these issues that a man who's obsessed with his legacy should stake his government on?
Let Mr. Markan respond to that, and that will be the last word. You've left it for too late. It's very difficult now to arrest this decline.
Well, whether it is late or not is something which can't be debated on the television sets, because it is finally the people have to decide.
Okay.
And when in 2014 people will decide, they will tell us whether it was too late or not. So I don't think this is the right time to discuss whether it is too late or not. finally we'll come to know whether it was late or not in 2014 after the elections.
I just want to make one quick point, and I'm going to again repeat the question of price rise. And if we just look at analyze what's been happening across the country politically, we've had 2 elections now.
Okay.
One of them they've just scraped through. They've lost. The Chief Minister's son lost in Uttarakhand. If you look at the state of Andhra Pradesh, out of 18 by-elections, 15 the Congress lost, and a massive 62% change of the vote share. And their own, Nellore was a complete washout for someone very high profile. So, I mean, a string of results are pointing that, critical issues are there and performance is going to be the key. I don't think it's going to be anything else.
Ajay Markan's got his hand up. I'm also out of time. Yes, Mr. Markan, very quickly.
Well, in elections, if you look at the history, things changed within weeks, not even months or years. So please, I think 1.5 years is good time for us to perform, show the results. I have contested many elections. In 98 February, I lost my parliament election in my own assembly constituency. In 6 months flat, 7 months flat, after that I won by 20,000 votes from the same assembly constituency. After 1 year, again we lost. So things change so quickly within a matter of weeks, not only months or years. So don't consider what is happening now that these would be the results in 2014.
Just a 10-second thing. I think I'll agree with Mr. Markan on one thing is that the people have the final verdict, and all political parties, whether Congress, we have to just go there and face. People will elect based on performance, I think. So we'll leave it at that and let people decide.
But the good thing is that there is hope, and that hope is important, that at least all these ministers we've spoken to today believe that they can go out and get something done. How much they're able to deliver is something that the people of India must decide on, but at least the government feels it's getting reinvigorated. Mr. Ajay Markan, congratulations. Veer Sanghvi says you're a future Chief Minister. That's a big compliment. You must thank him later. Thank you very much for joining us on this special broadcast. To all my guests for having joined us on a new beginning for Team Manmohan. Will it lead to new results?